It's funny. I think when Monica Monique, either on LinkedIn or something, she saw when I posted like, "Hey, we're doing this thing." She said this thing like, "Oh, like for many people, Rory was my first." So I'm uncomfortable thing to say in front of people, but I will agree with the sentiment that I think on my journey, and I was so grateful when we discovered that you were, kind of really participating in our New York events and stuff. I learned so much from you early on, and I think it's people that are new to the space. I always even reference you as an example of what there's so much of, is that there's a lot of people, on this sort of journey of learning, but we're sharing it back. And I think until that becomes sort of disincentivized for some reason, that is kind of the value of being here, is that there actually is quite a bit of shared learning, and that's very much the spirit of what we're doing with this new format of RoboDojo. But as we were kind of cracking, like, you have so much to share, and if anything, Midjourney is sort of like what a lot of people might first associate with you, and all these amazing toolkits and stuff that you've shared. Weavy is sort of this pretty cool like little world. I mean, we can all even debate about how it's become a meme with like the nodes, and Kriya just added nodes, and FreePick just added nodes. It's like Oprah handing out nodes. Like, everybody's got nodes. And I know there's at least one person in the audience, Michael Ronan, that I'm sure will chime in at some point, who's been another voice for me of learning about Weavy. He actually introduced us to Weavy at AI in the Lot when they came and were a part of our event there.
So cool.
But the idea of node-based is obviously, you could argue Comfy UI is even deeper on the use case for these things. But even now, Weavy getting acquired by Figma, like, there's just a lot to absorb about Weavy, that there might be, and as I followed you, really leveled up kind of your offerings on and sharing the workflow. So I think we were talking about this. I would love to turn the mic over, introduce yourself if there's anything new you'd say about yourself. But we're so excited to have you with us, and we're ready to go deep on this, and also create an opportunity for others to chime in and share workflows today. But you're going to take us down the first sort of a circle of Weavy here.
Awesome. No, thanks for the glowing introduction, Fred. It's nice. Appreciate it. Yeah, no, what's up, everyone? Rory Flynn. I am the founder of something that I call Systematic AI, a company that no one's ever heard of before. But do a lot of things, right? Like, I could say I do one thing or the other, but it just ends up being like just glorified problem solving with AI. A lot of times what I'm trying to focus on is scale. So for internal teams, which is like, you have a creative team, you have a brand team, you have a marketing team, whatever. We all have design problems. It's just like, how do we sort of fix them with the tools that we have available? And then how can we build now workflows to not automate some of this, but at least to put like the thinking of the process into the digital space, and then sort of tailor it to fit our needs, because everyone's different, right? Like, I always look at everything. This isn't a glorified sales pitch for me, but this is just a way that I look at everything, coming from the agency world, more so in the performance marketing side. But everyone's operations got a problem. The best companies in the world got operational problems, right? And we're all looking for ways to do things just a little bit cleaner, a little bit simpler, a little bit more structured. So that's why Weavy, when I saw it, I was like, ooh, yeah, this fits, because at the amount of projects that I was doing and working on, teams that I was helping, it's like, all right, let's go to ChatGPT, we'll create prompts here, we'll copy that, we'll go to Midjourney, we'll paste them into Midjourney, then we'll do some editing in there, and then we'll download that, and then we'll go to Runway, and then we'll create the videos, and if those don't work, we got to go back to ChatGPT and do the whole thing all over again. So it's just like, number one, you're asking businesses, you, the consumer as well, to have like how many subscriptions, and also from that standpoint, know how many different interfaces, which is another thing that just becomes even more difficult. So when I saw Weavy, I was like, yeah, this is the one. This is the ticket. Comfy, for me, I played around in Comfy. I like it. I like what you can do in there. I can't go into a business, which majority of my business now is going into other businesses and helping with this stuff. For someone who's never picked up ChatGPT before, showing them Comfy UI, not going to fly. It's not going to work. Like, I can teach you prompting. I can't teach you Comfy if you know nothing. So, I'm not going to be a self-proclaimed expert at Comfy or anything like that. But, reality was, this is sort of a very easy, for anyone that's doing this stuff as well, anyone that's looking to help businesses, or, going into internal teams, or you're partnering with other people, Weavy's very comfortable. Like, as crazy as it looks with all the node-based stuff, like a lot of designers, a lot of people in the production world are used to node-based tools. It's comfortable. It's not paragraph and pray, right? Which is what I like to, what is majority of AI. It's like, let's take this, something that we know already, we're used to it, and we'll build sort of structure around it so we can get either replicable outcomes or we can test like branching realities, which I think is the best part of it. But that's like a way too long of an intro. But there's a lot that goes into it. Weavy, if you guys haven't checked it out, really cool product. The team there, 13 people, so they're really small. Anyone on that team, if you have questions and you're looking for certain things, just reach out to them. Lior, Netta, and Itai, super invested. They're the closest thing I've seen in terms of like community to Midjourney, where it's like, all right, we're community first. We want to take it. We want to take feedback. We want to move fast. They are 13 people, so they can move fast. But I don't think much is going to change with the Figma stuff. So, that being said, I prepped some stuff for you guys. I don't know what exactly where we're gonna go, what we're gonna get to. I figured there's probably some people that are fairly deep in this, probably some people that are fairly, just starting. But that being said, I'm gonna pull up some slides only because I need to keep myself on track, or I'll just talk podcast style to you guys for an hour and a half. But let's I'll run through some of this stuff. I think there's good things. Then we can go. My plan for this, Fred, just if you're cool with this, we'll go through some slides. I'll just lay some groundwork. I'll jump in. I'll show you some really big stuff, and then I'll show you some really small stuff, like easy ways to use this, and then like more complex ways to use this.
But it'd be fun to learn where the gear shift is on the car. But if there's a few kind of like, and this is where you really see the potential of doing new stuff. I think that's what's exciting. I mean, for anybody that hasn't used Weavy, what's cool about it is, and I think they're a great product. They have a lot of their own tutorials when you walk in.
Yeah,
so it's a very welcoming tool, which is I think another thing I liked about it. But that's the opportunity. I'd love you to take us to some edges of it.
Yeah, it's shareable too, which is the best thing, right? Like if I build, I'm always thinking about this stuff in terms of team, right? Like if I can build one thing, then everyone can use it. Right? Like if you crack the code, everyone gets to reap the benefits. So that's why it's also cool. It's like if you build these, and then every once in a while you stumble across something that's like a meal ticket, and you're like, what? So like random workflow. I'm not allowed to show it because it's for a brand that I'm under NDA with. But let's just say there's something like a certain product and food has to be placed in it. Right. And then we have to change the food and localize the food all the time and then place that in different locations. I was having a hard time like getting the product to stay consistent because it's glass. So it's like a very weird thing for AI to handle. Like here's the food, put it inside the glass dish with the perspective and the lighting and everything in the background. So it's a lot. But like I went about it in like a totally random way last night and it worked out. And now it's like a one-click solution, right? It's like now it's every single time. So it's just, you find it one time, you do the same process, it works, and like then you roll from there. But again, enough of me talking about this stuff. Just be like ripping on it. No, where am I? This. All right, let's just
so and I don't know how much you switch around on Google Meets. If you want to play audio at all, it's easier if you share a tab.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is, sorry guys, I'm like totally all over the place coming in. This is workflow building 101.
Yeah, while Rory's getting set up, if people have questions, I'll do my best to kind of DJ off the chats. I know Kyle's already asking, can you download the JSON of a flow, or can you just share a workflow canvas as we get deeper into this? But also raise your hands of, let's give Rory a window to run with this for a little bit and give us a taste of this. But in case you had a quick answer, Kyle had a question.
So not that I know of, I know that I have like copied a whole node pack before and then like went to go download it to, or went to go paste it to another workflow and then ended up putting it in an email because I thought I copy pasted something else and it came out in JSON format. So I haven't tried to like export it in that sense, but maybe. That's a good question. I guess I should try to do that.
That's why we're here. These are the types of questions.
That's the good stuff though. So yeah, like this is it. I'm not going any crazier than that. Like in terms of to build this stuff, like you don't need to be good at every tool. You don't need to know every tool, yeah, it's great. It's great to know some like core functionality of every tool and what they do. But that's the idea. We're just going to be bombarded with tools now, so everything's going to be new at all times. So like instead of that, let's just learn like where these things sit. And if you can do basically three things, you can build any workflow and the tools become interchangeable. It's like building the assembly line, and when the machines become out of date, you just fix them or repair them or swap them, right? Like it's not, the workflow process still typically looks exactly the same. So like these are the three ones that I'm always thinking about, right? Like this will be like part, I guess, instructional if you want to call it that. But like number one, skill one, deconstruction. That's basically if we can take any piece of medium and deconstruct it into its core components, then that's going to be like a way for us to build scale, right? Because AI works really well off formula. So how do we take like an image, deconstruct it into its requisite parts, or a video, deconstruct it into its requisite parts, sort of turn that into a formula, and then have it be like Mad Lib style for an LLM to fill out, right? Because a lot of this stuff, and we'll go through some more basic use cases where I'm just using this as like a design / compositing tool versus like where I'm running this at scale, like one click, infinite assets, right? So deconstruction comes paramount in all of this. You can, you can basically reverse engineer, you can build workflows. System prompts, if anyone's familiar, I'm sure most of you are, with building like custom GPTs, they're runoff system prompts saying like, basically, if I give you this, do this every time. That's what we, in the workflow space, if you want to start building more automation and scale, system prompts become really important, but also it's like the precursor to agents, the buzzword, which everything is run off of. And then three is just sort of like, I think this will eventually change. This workflow dev as being a skill, I think this will be way more attainable. Like I think it'll be less tool focused and a little bit more sort of like navigational in a sense, regardless. But basically, how do I get from point A to point B? What tools do I need to get there? And what process do I need to take? Right. So that's sort of like the three ones. And like basically, like going over deconstruction, like I always start with images, right? Because images, to me, if you're doing anything that requires consistency, whether that's film, advertising, whatever, you need to have images, because the video, text to video is still not clean enough yet to get like the same thing all the time. So we're all starting with images, right? So if we wanted to essentially deconstruct an image, like what goes into an image, like what is the most important thing, right? Like I call these like the non-negotiables, right? Like they're going to be provided in an image whether you prompt them or not. So if I broke down an image, right, like into its core components, basically to have like, so these are probably the main categories. Like I would say these are condensed, like you're going to have these in just about every single image. You have your shot and your shot type, so how it's captured. You have your subject and your action, like who and what they're doing. The environment, where it is, your color scheme, the colors, right? Like pretty standard. I like to use like, camera types or lens types. Like the lens types to me works really well in terms of the shot and like how it's, how it's constructed visually, how the hierarchy looks, how like the focal points look, things like that. Composition, again, like what that looks like, the mood and emotion, to me that tends to give a nice little pop as well. But again, every image is going to have lighting. You're not going to have an image without lighting. If you didn't, there'd be a black, just like a black square. Textures to me is often something that we probably don't prompt for enough, because that's what everyone complains about in this space is, everything looks soft and plastic. It's like, all right, we'll prompt for the textures. And then details and modifiers, right? Like these are your extra subtle details or props. But effectively, essentially, it's like we take our visual building blocks here. Or like I consider all those categories like little building blocks. Like each one of these goes into making up our AI image, right? So good thing about thinking about it like this too is when we start to prompt, and if we want to make edits or iterate, which we all know is everything, when you start to break things out like this and you have your core non-negotiables sort of aligned, you can just go and like, oh, I don't like the lighting. I know where it is in my prompt, go swap it, right? Because once we have sort of like these visual building blocks, and you can do this for images, you do the same sort of process for video, same sort of process for music. Like if we were going to do video, the visual building blocks, majority of the time, this is exactly the same. It's just, what are we adding? Motion, camera motion, subject interaction with environment, XYZ. But like, it's essentially the same thing. You're going to have lighting, you're going to have composition, you're going to have colors, shot types, subject action, right? So, good thing is when we take something like this, like an image, we have our little building blocks. And then Once we have that, we can structure that into a formula. This is where it becomes like this stupid thing is like we're basically all of the scale what came from after that is like if we can figure out how to systematize prompting that it doesn't have to be us all the time, it can be an LLM, and then we have to just give it instructions, right? So again, we were to take like all those building blocks and sort of layer them into a prompt formula, it might come up with something like motorsport photography, Red Bull F1 car on a track. Got the color scheme. We have our camera filter or our camera lens, depth of field, backlighting, center framing, motion blur, right? Like seemingly random collection of words. But when we run this stuff, we get exactly what we asked for because we're covering like just the non-negotiables. Yes, you can put more in, you can put less in, but I think like when you can control at least the non-negotiables, you have like a really good opportunity to like basically control every part of the image. So, that's cool. But all these things, we're setting like a little bit of a baseline here before we actually go in and do this stuff. Because like these image editors now, like they're like the hottest thing on the market, the in-context models, right? They're super intuitive. They have infinite possibilities. You can do a lot with them. They're not too hard though. Because again, like, I'm sure you guys know these models that we've been talking about, Nano Banana, Seed Dance, GPT, Flux, Runway, they're interchangeable. I think, Nano and Seed Dance are top of the pile right now, but who knows what next week looks like. So, I'm sure Nano's coming out with 2, GPT's coming out with their second version of it. It's just like, they all work the same way. But like, if we're going to figure out how to use these tools, like when the new tools come around, right? It's like, we're taking like, what is essentially editing, right? Like they're saying it's an editing tool. So it's like, to me, this is the easiest way to sort of get on board with new stuff as it comes out too. It's like, essentially editing is keep this, change that, right? Like that's it. So it's how I like to structure a lot of my prompts. And a lot of times this is also very easy for the LLMs to do this at scale, which is, we'll get to this stuff. But like simple prompt structures, right? Like I'll just write in these things for this, keep, colon, that's it, and then details you want to keep, change, colon, details you want to change, add, remove, whatever. So this provides like a pretty structured format that, again, we're going to show the, moving into the system prompt side of things, how that helps, right? So like this prompt, for an example, keep this exact product visible, preserve the fine details. Pretty simple, right? Change, then we'll have like our prompt, what we want them doing, what they are doing, sun sweat soaked expression. I was feeling spicy that day, I guess. So we can take something like this, and basically all we're saying is keep the bottle, change the environment, the background, the lighting, right? Like that's sort of how we're thinking about it. Because that, again, is a very simple structure, but that's cool. But that can also lead to scale, right? Like for my business in the performance marketing side of things, we just need assets all the time. Like there's no end to the asset game. We might have 50 pieces of creative each week that we're running. 3 might work. We need to swap 47. So something like this is necessary for us to keep going at that scale, right? But that leads us to, let me see where I'm at on time here. I want to make sure we get into the actual tool. 2 is system prompts. Like this is to me like kind of where everything's moving, but they guide the output. Like that's exactly what they do. It's replicable, right? You want replicable things. You want replicable output, and you want predictable output, not something that's going to be like, here, can you go create me a prompt and it comes out different every time, and then it has some extra commentary or it does this or that, right? We want to be able to sort of like guide the LLMs to write how we want them to, or to do what we want them to do, like all the time. So like this one, loose guideline, don't have to use this every single time. This is basically like my little structure. Everyone who's on here who's back in ChatGPT in like 2022, 2023 is going to look very familiar to like those mega prompts we used to have to write to get anything good out of them. Luckily, that same structure sort of works as a system prompt, right? So again, do these 6 categories. You can add more. You don't have to have all of them. I think these are just like pretty much condensed as the good amount of things that you need in there. We want to have someone who's going to act as, right? Like who are we acting as? Is it a rocket scientist or is it a prompt engineer, right? The goal is like what we're actually trying to do. The output is how to respond. I think this one's interesting most of the time because I sometimes forget about it. But it's like if I basically saying like, I'm going to give you this, what are you going to give me back? So if I give you an image or if I give you a piece of text, how are you going to respond to that? Core focus, like what exactly we're trying to do and how it should be performed. The format, it's how it should output. Is this going to be like a list? Is this going to be a script? Is this going to be a prompt? Is this going to be a, a task sheet, whatever? And then limits. This to me is the most important because this is where everything's sort of like, you need to like really narrow the knowledge base down to like limits it from doing things. It also makes it more tailored, right? So this is basically the core formats here. But like if I was going to go build a prompt generator, right, for an image model, this is probably how I'd write this. I won't read this to you guys, but I'll show you sort of like the breakdown of it. Basically, I'd want to act as a visual merchandiser who's going to generate prompts for an image generation model. So visual merchandiser is typically a good one. This is on the marketing side. You want it to be a cinematographer, photographer, art director. Those might be good holding sort of positions as well. The goal is to help users generate prompts, especially in, photorealism, human anatomy, detailed scenes, right? Output for every, this is what I was talking about from the response, for every user input image or idea, always generate distinct prompts, meaning if I just give you an image, go and generate a prompt. If I give you a piece of text, go generate a prompt. If I give you an image and text, generate a prompt. So basically whatever I give you, don't like respond as oh, sorry, I don't know how to compute that. I would like you to explain what you mean. Just want them to go do things, right? So this is a core focus here. What I'm saying is, while photorealism and cinematic realism are the core focuses, when other styles are requested, again, such as 2D, illustrated, 3D rendering, adapt the prompt structure accordingly for each target style. So don't be so rigid that I can't give you something different and you can't answer, basically is what I'm doing there. Format, having all prompts should be detailed for, we're going to add context such as our prompt formula from before. Then each prompt should be about 200 to 350 words. This is typically like a good mix for just about all of the like image generators. Like they all somewhat like something a little bit different, but we're kind of in a good grace zone there. And then limits. This is the important piece. It's, do not include any explanation, just provide the prompt. Because if you think about when we build these workflows, right, I'm going to do one thing and it's going to end up all the way down here. It's going to go through a number of different stages. But like if I'll write this prompt, if I have it write a prompt and it's like, hey, here's like the 5 prompts I wrote for you. What do you think? ? And then your prompts, it's like, that's going to go right into the image generator without you checking it. And it's just going to screw up everything. So basically we're just saying, just give me the prompt, dude. Like nothing else. That's it. Just write that. Not, what do you think? Do you have any more questions? We don't want any commentary or additional analysis. So the goal here for something like this, right, is for me, I don't necessarily like to write 3-4 paragraph prompts anymore. I don't have the time or the brain power, but I do know how I always like to write prompts. So that's how I use my system prompt to do like much of the heavy lifting. Because the goal here for me specifically is I want to just provide a loose idea. That's basically all I want to do, is give it like some little general idea. I want the system prompt to take over and say, got you, I understand what you're trying to do. Let me go and write a more detailed prompt for you. And then I'll go and send this to the other image generators to go generate. So this is like basically to me, like a core engine of workflow building is like, yes, you can have it write 1 prompt for you. You can also have it write 50 prompts for you. It can do a lot of different things. So, it's, to me, that's really what you're building in workflows, like little engines, things that can be replicable. Because, with the workflow dev side of things, and this is where my slides might go a little bit off hinged, but this is more so into my world, but it all sort of makes sense in the end here. But the workflow dev stage it's important because it's got to be controllable, number one. It is very customizable. The stuff can be scalable depending on how you build it. To me, it's hard for me to do like single prompting anymore, like unless I'm really working on a very specific project. I'm trying to build in batch, so I'm getting 20 outputs instead of 1, right? Or 20 outputs instead of 4. So I can look at this stuff and really like get to what I'm trying to get to much quicker. And it's building certain processes like this where, I'm really just writing 1 prompt and then two system prompts are taking over and creating 20 images, right? So that's where I sit. The images are fast, they're cheap now. It's not that hard, and it just allows us to think in batch and just create more. So again,
Weavy, from
yeah,
Roberto, just that. What about the metadata of your output? If you want to replicate something, are there stories, or is there a seed or a prompt?
I'm sorry, in the
if you want to replicate something of your output,
is
there stored a seed or a prompt that you can then?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking, Roberto?
Yes. So I'll show you when we go in here. Majority of the times when you're running with the LLMs, they're cataloged, so you can go back and look through them, extract them if you want to. If you're running in batch, if you're just doing one, it'll always technically be there. That is the one thing that you will notice with the node-based systems, right? When you do these, when you are prompting in these, these little boxes, oftentimes if you go and erase one prompt, like gone, not getting it back. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So a lot of times it's good to, either catalog. There are seeds that are available with some of the tools depending on what you generate. So yes, there's a yes and a no answer to that. So again, if you guys aren't familiar with Weavy, it's the node-based craze right now. 100 plus tools, super scalable. A lot of traditional tools in there as well, which I love. More so compositing tools, and there's things that you're familiar with from Photoshop, your levels and your different channel mixers and things like that, which are come in handy really nice. 3D nodes, got a lot of stuff.
Not to derail from the walkthrough, but that's what was so interesting to me about Figma teaming up, because in some ways, like, it was right during Adobe Max where clearly Adobe's showcasing how they've always been the dashboard for so many different functions, and now they're entering this aggregator phase and working with all these different tools. And Figma is, to a lot of people on this call, it's a very comfortable collaborative workspace. And they're like, okay, insert here all the models, all the tools, every possible thing that we don't have with one partnership. That speaks a similar language. I just thought that was interesting. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I think it's great, because I think Figma, any hardcore Figma users here know that you live on plugins a lot of times. I think that's going to be a space where Weavy is going to be helpful. Like if you're able to create little workflows that can be turned into plugins to do certain things all the time, right? Like this one I was doing with the exact thing I was doing with the dish and the food, what I was talking about. If I just turn that into a plugin or a little app that I can run on specific images, and it's just like, bang, it's done. Good. Next. I don't have to do it again. So like that's sort of the goal here. But like when you get into workflow building, just want to talk about sort of like the process. This is like more for scale than it is for just generic type thought, right? Or just like generic sort of like workflow building. But really it starts like working backwards. So you have to understand like what you're trying to get at the end. You also have to be able to produce what you want at the end, to like, if that makes sense. Like I can't like build a system to create really good AI images if you've never created a good AI image before. Like you need to know like what is good, then back engineer like how to get there, right? So again, I got to understand some of the tools and some of the sequences to go into this. But typically, like what I just said, I'm proving output first. So before I go and build these tools in Weavy, I'm like, can I just write a couple prompts like myself to get something like this without having to go and build it at scale? Because once I have a couple good prompts and it's replicable, right? And I'm like, oh, that structure is going to work here. Cool. Let me try it 15 different ways. Cool. It works. So then it's like, all right, now I have to go back to the input. Like, what's the system prompt? How do I write one single prompt that will write 10 more prompts for me exactly like that? That'll go get me 10 outputs of exactly what I need, right? So that's, again, this is where all the groundwork has been laid with a lot of what you guys have been doing or learning, is like getting into these sort of, better controllable outputs from your prompting, which now can then be turned into scale. So what do I have here? Let's do an example. All right, cool. So like this is a good example, right? Like workflow process. First, typically, like I said, I'm going to identify the angle. Then I'm going to identify the tools that I need to build it. Then we'll build a system prompt, and then we'll build the workflow, right? So like here, if I wanted to get this product into this into this like sort of advertising composition, right? This is basically what I'm dreaming up in my head. This doesn't exist yet. But like my idea is I want to go here, but I want to auto prompt it. I just want to give it this and say like, go create a meta ad for me. Like that's basically how I'm thinking. So I need to build a prompt that's like, okay, I understand you want to use this thing, but then I need to write, how do I position all of these ingredients around the product, add the text, find the different benefits that we're going to call out in here, things like that. So, really just a couple nodes, but this is, and we'll sort of look through some of this stuff, but the image reference, right? Like I'm going to go get a couple nodes here. I only need about 4 or 5. One would be a reference image where I'm going to upload my product. 2 would be a text node where I'm going to write my like user prompts, the prompt that I'm going to write to like describe what I want. 3 is going to be another text node, which is just going to be my system prompt, which is basically saying, this is what I want to do with my ideas, turn it into this style of prompt every time. I'll drop in what's called in Weavy, which is called any LLM, but you can just go siphon through, ChatGPT, Claude, or Llama, or I forget what else is in there. But you can use whichever one you want. This is going to be like your prompt generator, and then we'll need an image generator. So here we use Nano Banana, right? So first, like typically, right, when I build this stuff, I'm going to build like a system prompt that will provide rules, right? And these system prompts like aren't crazy hard. It's basically like, you are X, you are going to be doing this with what I give you. Your task is to do this, format it like this, follow these rules. Like that's pretty much it, right? It's like just a set of custom rules to follow every time, instead of saying like just straight into the LLM, hey, can you write me a prompt for this with no structure, right? It's like, here's the structure to sort of like think off of. So I'll basically drop this node in, give it inspiration, right? It'll take my idea and be like, okay, I'll structure my prompt, I'll reference the image, and then I'll go create a prompt based on that, which is cool, right? And then when we connect Nano Banana here, it's basically saying, okay, we have prompt, rules, reference image, prompt based on rules and reference image, image created based on rules, prompt, reference image. It's like, great. So this is like a core functionality here, right? Like you think about this doesn't have to be AG1. This can be a character. This can be, a scene. This can be whatever. It doesn't have to be one thing or the other, because it's good, because now this is like what I want to sort of like get across to everyone too, is building this stuff in a more generic fashion. Like if you go into my custom instructions, they're very loose, and we'll look at a few of them. If you want to use this for other things other than just the one singular workflow that you're working on now, I'm sure everyone who's played around with this has gone and like, you end up going down, you have a single prompt for every little step of the way, right? That's something that can't be like replicated and used again. That's like a very isolated use case. Like this is now a tool. Like this little piece right here, I can drop in any product, anything I want that I need consistency with, and it's going to work, because I'm not saying like in the custom instructions, use it. You always use this AG1 green in the colors, right? Like I'm not doing that, because that's not necessary. I just want to say like, always look at the product, always do this if there's a product like available, whatever. So good thing here is like, again, this idea is, the girl holding this package out, sitting on the bleachers. My next idea to get this, I might just say, meta ad with negative space built in, contrasting green background with, item callouts. I can use this same little tool. I don't have to go and rebuild it. So this is like this becomes like a little function for me now, because I can also drop a different product in here, right? It's just same exact thing. Nothing changes other than what I'm describing. So just drop a new product in, say I want a lo-fi meme of this. It's going to go take my custom instructions, say, all right, I'll write you a prompt. There you go, output. So this is how you start to scale, right? Like same workflow, different results, different products could be used for different things. Then you iterate the system prompt a little bit, and you can change up exactly how it goes. Like instead of trying to get marketing assets, which I was here, like I'll just change the system prompt to make memes now. Like just it can be whatever you want, really. And then I don't have to really change anything else other than my input idea. So that's sort of like the small portion of it. The big portion of it is when we start to scale stuff, right? So let's see where we're at here. Cool. These system prompts, right? it's really not that much. Like the difference between this and this is not much. I'm just telling it to write 10 prompts instead of one prompt. And then how we split those 10 prompts, right? So there's much cleaner ways to build this. I like to show it this way so that you can see everything and like this, like the size of it. Because once we start looking at the branching into like multiple outcomes, like this is right here running to 10 images. This is running to 10. This could be 40. This could be 100. This could be 400. Right? Like this is how some of these other brands do it at like very big scale. So again, we look at something like this. If I'm going to build a little bit bigger here, you know, I have like my reference image, right? Which is, you know, input our product, user prompt right here, which is saying like, this is what I want to do. This custom instructions here, this system prompt, the only thing I changed about it was write 10 prompts instead of one prompt, right? That's it. Then the one extra piece here, which we'll get into, and I'll show you guys when I jump off here into Weavy, it's like how to split this stuff. You need to put this in the rules, which is like, you know, separate each prompt with a star so that it knows when to like separate the prompts and not just run all 10 prompts as one, if that makes sense. Yeah, there's a variable piece that I also like to put in sometimes as well into the system prompt, which is like the visual brand profile, which is essentially like the brand style guide, like put into words. Again, this might be useful for some people here. For me, I need to do it to keep everything on brand, but same thing, same infrastructure, right? We have reference image, user prompt, system prompt. This here is called a prompt concatenator, really fancy word for just saying like, this is a piece of text, this is a piece of text, put them both in the same box. That doesn't do anything else other than that. So again, it's just reference image, user prompt, custom rules or system prompt are these three down here. Prompt generator, same as before. Then we have this thing called array, which basically when you run into array, it'll split the prompts into individual prompts. It'll then branch. So we'll use this thing called a list selector or a text iterator, which I'll show you later. I keep saying that. And then they run to each individual node that they go and generate. This will happen automatically with one click now, right? So it's all sort of flowing from one thing to the next. But the other good thing they have is what's called app mode, right? And this is when you really start to figure out how to build the tools, when you start building for app mode. Because really, this is how it would look if I gave it to a client or if I gave it to someone. It's just like you put in an image, you write your prompt, 20 images come out. Like nothing else. You don't have to look at the spaghetti strings. You don't have to look at this whole thing and figure out what's going on. Just hit enter and go. And that's what comes out, right? So we want to guide the process, each individual step. But the let's see what we got here. Yeah, let's go. Oh, perfect. Good segment. But let me pause for a second. I just ripped through that stuff. I just wanted to lay some sort of like foundation there on a few different ways to go about things. But
if that's a pause, Kyle's jumping in saying, why do you add a node that's a label? You can see it in the text. I'll just read it out loud for everybody. Why do you add a node that's a label that says text prompt to then branch it to all the model inputs versus just drag connectors from the prompt box directly to all the models?
I'm not sure. I'm sorry. What was the?
If you look in the text chat, it might be easier for you to read it.
All right, let's see. Hold on.
From Kyle.
Why do you add a node that's a label that says text prompt to then branch to all the model inputs versus drag the connectors from the prompt box directly to all the models? Oh, because I'm writing 10 unique prompts from it. Like that one idea I'm giving it, it's just a loose idea. It's not like do this. It's going to run through my system prompt, which is going to say like, here's the idea, write 10 variations of this, or like 10 different ways to go about this. So it's like permutation prompting in Midjourney almost, but like for the full prompt. So that, like I don't like, oftentimes I'm sure you guys know I default to writing the same stuff all the time, you know, in prompts. I'm like, I use a certain kind of lighting, I use a certain kind of composition. It's just like comfortable, right? And just like you kind of like every once in a while. So this like breaks that, but also for variance, you know, for me, for something like these marketing assets, like they can't all look exactly the same. Like I need, the point of doing this in batches for me to get different stuff. So they're all built to be written differently. So that's why it'll go, that one idea will turn into 10 ideas, but they're all slightly different from each other. Does that make sense, Kyle? Sorry if I didn't explain that. But
And then Elizabeth had a quick question about why do you start with a hand holding the AGI bottle instead of just the AG1 bottle, excuse me.
Oh, you can do both. It doesn't, typically it doesn't really affect it. Let me, I'll pull up an example, of something different. This is, let's see, I got to get out of this workflow here. Sorry, guys. This one is eating up all of my data. But let me pull up BarkBox for fun. Where are we here? BarkBox, cool. So this one, just as an example, right? This is, I'm sharing my screen, right? Let's see.
Yeah, you are. You're all good.
Yeah. So this one's just a standard product image, right? Works basically the same. Put it in. It's saying, all I'm really saying in the system prompts is preserve the details of the product. Make sure that this product stays how it looks, right? It's infinite now. So for something like this, which is awesome when it works. Let me back out of here for a second. I'll show you sort of why I'm also looking forward to Weavy is when this stuff can just get dumped right in here. I can go and push send 5 times on this app and I have about 200 images to go through. And then it becomes for me in my space, right? This is a little bit different for probably everyone who's working on different projects. This is good to get this amount of variance because then I can go through and then I'm finding, which ones I like. I'm like, oh, okay, these are the ones that I like. These ones are actually.
You're kind of imagining. You mean what you're excited about Figma joining is that there's going to be this flow through that as you're creating, it's landing in the space that you're already collaborating with your client or sometimes your collaborators, right?
Correct. And I think that's why I'm so obsessed with it. Is because I'm like, this would be so awesome to have this all in here. Easy. And instead of me having to download all the zip files, put it in here, and then always back and forth, I can either just send something back through into a workflow or do, pull different, small edits together that I want to make in Figma and then pull it back right into the workflow instead of down, it's just all the extra work. And I'm awful at organization, if you guys can't tell by my naming conventions over here. I move too fast, but again, this stuff is really, to me, insane. Now, this is just one use, right? This is just one simple use. But if anyone's take a back seat real quick. If anyone hasn't been in here, basically, this is your Weavy situation. Up here, this is, I would say, if you're not familiar with workflow building and you want to get a good idea, they have a good couple workflow tutorials in here and just workflows that you can just go and use. So if you're like, oh, I'm kind of interested in the brand creator, let me go see what that's all about, right? Click on it, and then it's a good way to learn, just to see sort of how everything is connected. What they're doing in each one of these things. Why is this system prompt saying this? What type of outputs are they getting with different models? Why are they doing this? Why are they using background remove? So sometimes these are great just to go and look through. To me, I learned definitely a few things in here throughout using it, but there's also all of your I got a lot here, a lot of crazy stuff. Put stuff into folders regardless, but if you're going in here to create new stuff, you just end up with a blank space. That's basically it. One piece of advice: just name them, because if you start going in here, it gets pretty confusing because everything becomes untitled, and then you're like, where is this stuff? So let's just do Robo. Right. Demo the tool. Has anyone not used or first time they're seeing this before? Well, I'm just checking the chat before I go.
Yeah, I think there's probably 2 types of brains. I think someone like Morpheus writing in that it might be new to see this infinite canvas model where the workflow is what you're seeing. I mean, I think what I sort of covet of getting as good at this as you is that so often, whether it's that we're hopping from website to website or tool to tool, we have to create our own Google Drive systems or whatever it is to keep up with it, even at this stage. And as you're saying, eventually adding Figma to it, it continues. There's something about just looking at your blueprint in real time, not the least of which is all these scaling opportunities that you're pointing us towards. So, and then yeah, like Flora is another one. So I mean, this sort of infinite canvassing is a trend. I think we're focusing on Weavy because, you know, in some ways a few of us are big fans, but also we see this as perhaps a category leader. I think for people that are using Weavy, and again, I want to be mindful of what else you want to share with us, but I'd love to invite folks to, you know, I know some people like Michael Ronan use it a lot too. So I want to give you space to walk us through whatever you're excited to share, but definitely we have lots of time to walk through and learn together. So I'll throw it back to you, Rory.
Cool. And I know Min is not a fan of the infinite canvas. I just like to keep ribbing him about that because he yes, I know there's some disdain towards it, but yes,
I'm here.
I was waiting for it.
Present the purist. No, I'm just kidding. No, this is great. I am curious though, because Adobe's going to do it too. So, which in theory would probably, they would try to make it as convenient as Figma's going to probably make Weavy, right?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's going to be some. FreePick did some things that I feel like are very similar to how Weavy could be integrated into Figma, like the way that you're able to sort of make a living, breathing design space in there with nodes. So, like, I don't know if anyone saw the. I'll pull this one up. I feel like this is probably not to go off course here, but I really like the way that this was presented by FreePick, because I feel like this is a great way to think about not just building workflows, but like building like this is like a sales piece to me, or like something I could utilize. They built this mood board sort of tool in here, but the way that it's structured with the sort of the text and the way it's all organized. Now, this could be used, you know, basically multiple times. Like, this doesn't have to be for chairs. Like, you plug in a different sketch of a different product and then, you know, different hex colors and different textures, and you have a whole different workflow. But I really like how this is laid out, because I would definitely use it for something like this. Because then this is all connected, but it also feels like if you're doing sales decks or presentation decks and pitches and stuff like this, yeah, cool. This is always going to be somewhat the same majority of the time. Anyone who's done deck work knows you're not changing that much. But like, this is a great way I think this would be pretty consistent in terms of how it could look and feel in Figma also, but not sure yet. They're still doing it, but I think I'm really excited about what Figma is going to allow them to do, because now there's just more capability within Figma. But that one, where was I? What were we just doing?
I mean, I think there's room if I think there's some kind of deep rabbit hole moments of things you've discovered that are really starting to work for you. I know there's stuff that's either NDA'd or not available to look at. But you know, again, I think also to invite others, if there's even questions you have about what other people are discovering, I think we want to create that environment too.
Totally. Let me stop sharing so I can come pay attention. Let's see. All right. Have I tried Flora? Does it compare to Weavy in my opinion? I like Flora. I think Flora is easy. Like, to me, like, Flora is like a great, like, if you like the creating with nodes, like branching realities and just using one tool to the next, I think I like it's very simple. It's clean. It doesn't have a few things that I really like with Weavy though. Like, Weavy's compositor node is like the game changer to me. It's why I got into it, is like, oh, there's a compositing node. I can stick different layers in here and then continue to build around that versus like trying to go do that externally. So that one, and then also like the batch capabilities, like Flora doesn't have the ability to do, you know, like, here's 10 prompts and then go do 10 different things with it. But it can just do, like, take this to this node. You'd have to write 10 individual prompts yourself, or it's hard to describe how to actually do that, but really you can only go like 1 prompt to 10 images, not 1 prompt to 10 prompts to 10 images, if that makes sense. So what's a good workflow to build out shots for a storyboard? Yeah, I think I have some stuff here. Let